I'm a junior at Delaware Valley University studying conservation and wildlife management. I'm taking animals on the public eye, which is why I get to hold this cutie patootie. This is the European legless lizard. A lot of people mistake them for snakes, although they are certainly not snakes. And there are some differentiations between them and snakes. As you can see, they have movable eyelids. Once he blinks, you'll see that. They also have unforked tongues and fleshy tongues. And they have external ear holes, which you can see on the side. This also line that goes down their body is to expand and contract for breathing and reproduction purposes and to eat. I think what's most interesting about this animal is their tail. They're actually mostly tail. I'm gonna put him down for a second to show you. So, like I said, they are mostly tail. In this prop I have, it shows how they can lose their tail, and this is just their whole body, and this is their tail. So they are mostly tail. Another name for them is armored glass lizard or European glass lizard, because they have these plates on their tail, throughout their tail, so they can break at any point. They can drop the whole thing or just parts of it, and they do that as a defense mechanism in case they have to get away from a predator. And I think that's pretty interesting, because some lizards do that, but to be able to do it at certain parts or just break off certain pieces, and once it comes off, it shatters. So that's why it's armored glass or European glass lizard. It's pretty interesting. These European legless lizards, they are not threatened, but they do have threats, typically habitat destruction or degradation, as for many species right now, as people keep building on their habitats. A lot of people, like I said, mistake them for snakes. So people get scared of them and will kill them, thinking that they're a threat, or they'll kill them for their skin and scales to make purses or clothes. So I would say just learning about this species and their importance to the habitat and why it's, we should try to have habitat for them conserved, have a little sanctuary, try to protect that habitat for them and all the other species that holds. I think that's one of the most important things we can do right now, because people are going to continue to build. So I think it's the most important thing you can do is just learn about them and learn why you should be protecting these animals.
Where are they found?
They're found in Europe and Central Asia. It's actually interesting, their breeding seasons just depend on their region, which is pretty fascinating, but they're mostly found in Europe. And their coloration also depends on where they are found throughout Europe and Central Asia.
If a person is interested in a career based around your animal, what type of career would you suggest?
I would suggest, my first idea would be something AZA related, which is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. So an AZA related job or working at an AZA accredited facility like a zoo or aquarium that houses these animals or similar animals that promotes conservation and tries to teach the public about conservation. There's also wildlife conservationists, education, teaching other people about these animals through school, I would say. It just depends on if you want to work hands-on with them or if you want to work from school standpoint, but no matter the job, it's going to be a lot of education and working with the people. I think definitely having an undergrad degree. I know here there's a bunch of different majors where you can work with these animals or similar animals or learn about these animals, such as zoo science, conservation, wildlife management, small animal science, biology, zoology. Internships could be, like I said, at an AZA accredited zoo. You could do US Forest Service, anything that's working in the conservation field, which is a lot of wildlife and animal care careers, all kind of work together. I would say try to not just, if someone's going around just killing snakes because they think they're a threat, maybe identify first. or don't immediately go to being, oh, it's a threat. There are identifications that you can take to see that this is certainly not a snake, such as the eyelids, the external ears, which you can visibly see, the line down their side, which they use to breathe. Snakes don't have that. If you actually take the time to look at the animal for 5 seconds, you can see it's not a snake. And I think it's important if people are going out hunting snakes or going out looking at snakes to learn the differences and be able to identify between the two so they don't get mixed up, and so that they can teach others about them too, and so that they don't get them mixed up and think it's a threat and then try and kill it. It's super interesting, like I said, about how different regions have different breeding seasons. I think is pretty interesting, and their tail is most interesting to me, I think, just because it can shatter, which is, I think, pretty cool when it breaks off, because other lizards' tails don't do that. And they can do that whenever there's a predator nearby, but for it to grow back, it takes months to a year, and usually doesn't grow back to the same size. I also think it's interesting about their habitat, because despite where they're found in Europe or Central Asia, they're usually in dry areas, grassy, rocky areas. They love rocks. They burrow when they're threatened, but they're also amazing swimmers and climbers. Also when they're threatened, they don't really do that unless there's a threat or a predator nearby, which I think is interesting. But I think the most interesting part about them is their tail, because it's really only unique to these guys and not really any other species. And there's only about 10 species of the European legless lizard.
Super.
They have like scales.
Yeah, that's kind of freaky.
It's, honestly, I don't know the specifics around it. They are legless, but you know, back to the last question, something else interesting is that they have these 2 hind legs, but they don't do anything at all. They're only like 2 millimeters long. You can kind of see them. But you know, that's a great question. I guess just when it's time to climb, they climb.
Fight or flight.
Exactly.
Just goes.
Exactly. Because they don't do it very often. Same with swimming. It's only if it's life or death situation.